Welcome to Python tutorial on tuples. Tuples is a collection data type in Python. It's just like a list data type, which is also a collection data type in Python, but there is one major difference. We'll discuss it in a while. So if you haven't done list before, it's better if you go through list and learn the tutorial go through the tutorial on list first and then move on to tuple. List is also a collection of data in which items can be of different data types. It means that, for example, if you are defining a list, you can have an item from integer, and the second item might be from float, and the third item might be from strings. It will allow different data types in one collection. Same thing, tuple also allows different data types in a collection. Lists are also ordered starting from zero index onwards. Tuples are also ordered starting from zero index ordered onward. Lists are allows duplicate values. Tuples also allows duplicate value. The only thing that is different between list and tuple is that lists are changeable. It means we can add, replace, or remove the values or items from the list, but we cannot add, append, replace, or remove any value from any item from tuple. So that's the major difference. Today, where our focus skills will be how to create a tuple, how to access an item or a range of item in tuple, negative indexing. We'll also use constructor and tuple constructor, and in last we'll do joining two tuples. And the online editor I'm using online GDB. You can use any. The code will run in the same way. So whatever editor you're using, you're going to use the same code. I'm defining my first tuple with the name evens, and I'm defining some even numbers in it. Um, Tuples are defined by using parentheses. So I'll start defining with parentheses. I'm saying 2, 4, 6, 8. And as I've already told you that we can use different data types, so I'm going to define 10 as a string just to ensure that there is no error. So when I run it, you can see there is no error in it, and it's defining 10 as a string data type. Access an item at the first position. The first item 2 has an index number 0. So if you have to access the first item, you have to write on evens 0. And when you run this program, it will show you 2 value there. Similarly, you can access any other value. So for example, if I want to access, let's say, third value, I will write on 3 and I will run it. You can see it like that. If you want to take a range of values, you can also define your range. For example, I said, I want to get a range of my tuple from 1 to, let's say, 3. So what can we do? 1 colon 3, and it will take the value at the index number 1. So 6 should be printed, that is a 2, and 8 is at the index number 3. The outer bound won't be printed, so be 4 and 6 only. Let's see it like that. So if you have done list before, the only difference between defining a list and tuple is lists are being created with square brackets rather than parentheses. So if I write on 1, comma 3, comma 5, so I'm creating a list right now. And I can print my list, and you can see if I'm printing my list, it's written list, so I'll use the same variable name. So you can see I have defined my evens here from line 6. This is printed here, and then I'm printing lists, like the full list is printed as 135. Okay, same way in list we can access any item by defining the index number. So I'm saying the item at index 1. So what is the item at index 1? That is 3. 3 would be printed only now. So you can see 4 and 6 comma 3. Now there is one more point. When I was saying list, it's printing the full list in the end. Can we combine list and events, or can we print list and even? Now both are different things. When I say can I print my list and the tuple together, yes, you can print both of them together, All you need to do is put a comma in your print statement, write the name of your tuple, or if you have and your name of your list separated with a comma. So when I run it, you can see both are printed full. But if you think that you can join of them, or you can add them together, no, you cannot. So the concatenation operator plus, if I run it, it will give you an error, type error. It cannot be concatenated. Now we have done, as I've discussed you before, we have learned how to create a tuple. I've already explained you how to access an item or a range of item in tuple. Now let's talk about negative indexes. Just like list, we can also do negative indexes. We can use negative index. So what is negative index? So the last value in any tuple is will last value, that is 10. The last value of over tuple is can be has an index number. If you have to access it through negative indexing, that would be -1. Let's run it and check it. Okay, I forgot to remove this plus, so that's why it's still giving me a type error. So I'm gonna remove it and put a comma here. Let's run it again. So you can see that -1 evens -1 is printing 10 here. Okay, if you want to print a range starting from negative numbers, you can actually do that. However, you have to define, for example, I want to start from -3. Now what is the meaning of -3? -3, so it is -1, -2, -3. So -3 is 6 and -2 is 8 and -1 is 10. But it, as per rule of indexing, you can only, when you say -3 to -1, it won't print the value at index -1. It would print the value only at the index -3 to -1. That includes -3 and -2. So as we have already said, value at -1 is 10, -2 is 8, and -3 is 6. So it will print 6 and 8. Let's run it and check it. So you can say it's printing 6 and 8 in the second one after the first print statement. Uh, that's all about negative indexing and how to present it. Let's check our goals. Creating a tuple done, accessing an item done, negative indexing done. Next is list constructor. Why we need a list constructor? List constructor is needed if you want to convert your tuple into a list. Why you would need that? As it's already said that list is a collection which is ordered and changeable. While tuple is a collection which is ordered but not changeable, unchangeable or immutable. So it means you cannot add a value in your tuple. If you need to add a value, you have to convert it into list. So for example, if I say that evens dot append and I say I want to add a new value and my new value is, let's say, 0. Okay, so what will happen? It would give us an error. So let me run it. Look, it's giving an attribute. It has no attribute append because we cannot use this method. Okay, so as I've already said, we cannot use it, so I'm gonna drop this idea. If you have to use it, you first need to convert your tuple into list. How can you do that? You can do that using list constructor. So for example, I can say evens is equal to, and I'm using list constructor to convert my evens into into a list. Once it is converted into list, now I can append a value 0 in there. Let's run it. So I haven't removed this code, and you can see that once events is converted into list, and then we have appended 0 in our list in line 9, and it's not giving us any error. Moving on to the line 10, I already had a list 1 3 5, and if I'm printing both of them, you can see now evens is no more a tuple with parenthesis. It is a square bracket and it is having a 0 there. Same thing we can do for list also. We can use tuple constructor to convert a list into a tuple. We can use it, we might need it if we want to ensure that nothing can be added. no more item should be added in our list. So for example here, if I convert it, so I'm saying list is equal to, and I want to convert it into tuple, so I can use the tuple constructor, and I can define that, okay, convert my list into a tuple, run it, and then in the last line you can see now 135 is being converted into um, a tuple, and you can observe this looking at these parentheses, so it's no more a list, and it means we cannot add any more values in it. Okay, so these are the two things. Last skill that we are going to focus is joining the two tuples together. So now we have one tuple, and I was converting here into list, so I'm going to remove these parts because I want to add the two tuples together. Now look here, even was a tuple, it's a tuple. Okay, so we are creating a tuple here. There's one more thing that I want to tell you at this point. I've told you that we can use tuple constructor to convert a list into tuple. We can also use a tuple constructor to create a tuple. So for example, instead of defining, let's use another list, prime, and I'm defining all the prime numbers here. So I'm saying instead of just defining with parentheses, well, parentheses is the easy way, because as soon as you will write on parentheses and you will mention some prime numbers or any values there, it will quickly be converted into a tuple. But if you want to use a constructor, you should be knowing how to convert it. So using a constructor means you will write on here tuple, and you will say, okay, convert these values into tuple. Now this will give you an error. Okay, why it would give you an error? Because these are the values that you're giving, but you haven't given it. Using constructor needs double double parentheses needed to create tuple using constructor. So if you're using constructor, you will need if you're using constructor, you will need double parentheses. It will give you an error right at the moment because we haven't used double parenthesis. Let's do it. You can see its tuple object has no attribute. Why it has no attribute? Because we haven't used this one. Oh, it is giving about the pen. I'll run it one more time for you. I'm gonna remove this one. Let's run it. Type error, tuple makes at most one argument. So if it's like a method function right now, you have to write on parenthesis tuple so that we can have one argument inside it. Let's run it. So it's okay like that. Can now both of you can see that in the last line we are printing list and even, and both of them are tuples. So can we add the tuples now? Because last time when we tried to add a list and a tuple, it was not working. Let's try to add and join two tuples together using the concatenation operator, that is plus. So when we'll run it, you can see both list and even are added together. List was having value 135 here, which has been converted into tuple after that in line 9. So it's printing 135 first, followed by all the values, all the items in evens, that is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you can see here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's all for today. We have practiced all of our focus skills. We have also learned how to change a tuple into list so that it will become changeable and mutable, and how to convert a list into tuple so that it will become unchangeable and immutable. There will be very practical situation in which you want no more data to be entered, and you should convert it into tuple rather than putting a lot of operations. Rather than saying you cannot enter a data, you can just convert it into tuple, and no more data would be and like rather than doing a coding for that, this conversion will make it possible that no more items should be added or removed from a tuple.